Hello, this is Jer. I'm playing Oxygen Not Included. This is my Moonlit playthrough, and I'm on cycle 44. And things are getting a little bit stressful. They're getting stressful because I don't have a lot of food, and I'm creating mush bars. And mush bars can be cooked into fried mush fry in the electric grill. So that's going to turn 800 calories for each mush bar into about 1,050. A little bit enough for just about one dupe. So I currently have 6 dupes, so I'm going to create 6 mush bars, and I'm going to have to do that every cycle until this PIP system starts producing the meat I need to feed my dupes. So let's talk about that in this episode. So every egg that I get out of my PIP stables, let's ignore how long it takes to hatch, whether I put it through the incubator or not, but that egg will eventually hatch into a PIP. And each PIP, whether it's an adult or not, doesn't matter, will give you 1,600 calories. And if you put that through the electric grill, that'll up it to 2,000 calories of barbecue meat. And that's enough to feed 2 dupes for a cycle. So how many eggs can you get out of these stables? Each PIP, if you put it in a stable and you have someone with a critter rancher room them, they're going to get a plus 15% progress towards laying an egg. And that's in addition to the 2% that is the base rate. So they'll get a 17% increase in their process towards laying an egg. They start at 0, and every cycle they add 17% if they are roomed, and eventually they get to 100, in which they lay an egg. And that will ultimately take about 5.88 cycles. So after 5.88 cycles, you'll get a PIP egg. Okay, we're moving on to cycle 45, and I'm starting the cycle is similar that I've done the last few. I'm making sure any of the eggs that need to be have the lullaby effect applied are, and I'm still grinding out some terrible mush bars because that's all the food source I have. So going back to this egg situation, I mentioned it takes 5.88 cycles to produce an egg. That assumes they're happy all the time. So let's simplify this, and let's say it takes 6 cycles to get an egg out of a PIP. That being the case, then for every 6 PIPs you have, you'll get 1 egg. Alright, so essentially 2 stables is going to be enough because I've got 3 PIPs per stable. Every 2 stables is going to produce enough food for 2 dupes. Or to actually simplify this down, the numbers actually quite work out really well in the fact that my stables have 3 PIPs in them each, but every stable is enough for a dupe. So the math is really quite easy. If I've got 6 dupes, I need 6 stables. If I have 8 dupes, I need 8 stables, etc. So with that, it really just comes to a matter of how many dupes I need, and making sure I've got those stables filled with the PIPs necessary to produce those eggs. And that's what I'm going to try to make happen. Just starting cycle 46, and getting notice one problem. None of the dupes have taken out this PIP. Squeak, that's because they can't carry it out if it's a single tile, so I'll have to dig above it to make that happen. The rest of this cycle, I'm just making sure that I've got the lullaby effect. That's going to increase the rate at which these PIPs are hatching, because I need to start filling the stables. Currently have 9 stables, not fully with automation, so I'm generating more aluminum to hopefully have automation. And in the meantime, I'm actually going to have another dupe have the hard digging skills, because I've got a lot of granite here and I only have a single dupe that's able to dig that out, so hopefully this is going to help. I'm going to do, in the meantime, while my dupes are making sure that I've got enough ranches or stables, I'm going to upgrade the wiring. That's because I'm going to need another electrolyzer and other equipment going forward, and I'm going to also want a second power generator. Manual generator, that is, just to handle the amount of power, and I don't want to see my electrical circuit overload, so I need to dig out some aluminum ore around the base. Okay, I think that'll do for this cycle. I'm starting off cycle 47 with the absolute terrible question. I'd really love to have 8 dupes by the time I get to cycle 50, or very close to that point, because if I can get 8 dupes eating meat for the 50 cycles, I pretty much will get this carnivore achievement. The problem is, even if I up the number of dupes to 7 or 8, I'm not producing meat at the moment anyways. So at this point in time, I'm holding off getting any more new dupes join the team, just because I'm not producing the meat for them anyways. I'm also not producing a great amount of oxygen. I think I need a second electrolyzer, so I'm going to wait till the electrical circuit is upgraded, and then I'm going to put that in before I consider bringing on another dupe. I also notice I'll get a little bit of polluted water spilling out in the area, so I'm going to clean that up towards the end of this cycle. In cycle 48, in addition to the basic lullaby effect and creating some mush bars, as I've been doing all too often lately, I'm adding some heavy watt wire plates, and those are going to bring in upgrading my electrical circuits into some of the rooms that I haven't been able to easily upgrade in the last one. So that's going to be those pip stables, as well as the wire that goes to the water that goes through the Great Hall. So ultimately, just looking for a proper location to be able to put those. I'm going to have to destroy some doors and put in some mesh tiles and the heavy watt plates in order to get all this in the right spot. The tedious part, or the most annoying part, isn't so much the Great Hall. Great Hall's fine. It's the pips. When I'm doing this in that area, they could escape and go, I'll have to re-wrangle them, or I could get a situation where there are too many pips in a single stable. But I'm going to have to just double check that when I'm done, and I'll see how that goes. I've got to be honest, it is cycle 49. Things are not looking good. So again, standard thing, playing the lullaby effect, mush bars and that. But in the last cycle, a lot of the pips have escaped because I'm building, upgrading the wiring and temporarily destroying some doors. That means they're ultimately going to not be laying as many eggs as they could be, and that could be slowing my whole process towards getting the carnivore achievement. So I'm just going to finish that wiring change and wrangle those pips possibly in the next cycle if this can get complete. But oh my, stress level is going up. I can say that much. Starting off cycle 50, rejecting another dupe. And I really want a dupe, but I just don't have meat for them to eat anyway, so there's not a whole lot of point of them being here. But this means I'm definitely going to need more than 8 dupes for the majority of this 50 cycles. I'm realizing one of the errors that I made in the last cycle, I really should have concentrated on getting the electrical plates through the first room. And even if those pips escaped, not bothered with the second and third room until those were done, because if the pips go in between the different stables, I don't nearly care as much as if they actually escape into the rest of the base. Anyway, not much I can do at this point other than my top 2 stables. I'll make sure that the plate is complete. I'm going to put that at higher priority, and I'm going to make sure that gets complete before I put in some of the heavy watt wires in the rest of the stable for the second and third layer stables. Okay, not sure how I feel overall, but let's take a moment to look at this. Okay, so I've started cycle 51 to re-wrangle some of those pips that went around the base, and I'm going to make sure that, or hope those get back in one of the stables that I have, and just closing up the inside of the top 2 stables, and hopefully that's going to be it. It took a lot longer than I had hoped to do some of this upgrading. I think part of the reason is I've got a dupe that's constantly focusing on mush bars, a dupe that's spending half the cycle every cycle working on hugging, and So of course someone's on the manual generator, because I'm also going after the super sustainable achievement. This is a lot. This is much more difficult in the moonlit cluster. I'm just gonna say that. I'm worried. My stress level continues to go up every single cycle. But maybe when I get this electrical thing upgraded in my stables, I've got enough. I've got 9 stables. That's enough for 9 dupes, as I've calculated earlier. So that's something. Okay, so on the bad news side, the wiring for inside the stables is not complete, but more importantly, the mesh tiles and the heavy watt plates are complete. So that actually forms the stables. The pips aren't able to go out in between and escape those things. So that's good. The other thing is I've wrangled all the pips that had escaped previously, and they're back in their stables. So things are looking better. Don't know whether I would say this is good, but they're better. There's also a lot of pipsqueaks available. And I'm going to wait till those become adults before I wrangle them, but eventually those will get in the stables. And as I mentioned, I've got 9 stables, so I'll be able to support 9 dupes when I get to this point. I'm eventually going to have to up the number, I'm certain, to 10, 11, maybe even 12. But I think there's still a chance. Cycle 53, in addition to some of the regular things that I'm doing, like lullaby and that, it's going to be about oxygen, because I see a lot of hydrogen, and I believe the problem is I'm going to need a second electrolyzer. I'm going after glass. I almost considered getting another dupe because I'm actually a little bit more optimistic about the number of pips I have available, but I really like to get 200 units of glass, and I won't be able to use that anytime soon, but hopefully if I can make it through this carnivore achievement, I'll put that to use. Alright, as I was mentioning, I'm going to build electrolyzers. You can see that I don't have enough oxygen here, and that electrolyzer should produce enough oxygen for about 8 tubes, but it becomes overpressured, and that's why it doesn't run all the time. So I'm not getting nearly enough from that. So I'm going to choose a second location. It's got to be further away from the first electrolyzer, because the first one is overpressuring itself. There's no point in just building another one that's also going to be overpressured. So I'm going to build one further away, and that will help produce more oxygen. Okay, so for cycle 54, I'm upgrading the electrical wiring that's around the incubator room and the hatchery room. And that is going to be critical, because ultimately I'm going to have overloading or more than 1,000 watts of power in this circuit. And anything that's just a wire at that point is going to start to burn out, and my dupes will have to start replacing it with more aluminum ore, just burning it off. So that's completely wasteful. The other thing I'm going to end up doing on this cycle is see if I can get my pips rather, on some of the stables that don't have arb trees to plant arb trees. Okay, so this episode has very much been pip focused, because I'm relying on them for food in my base, as well as to get the carnivore achievement, which if I don't get by cycle 100, I won't be able to get. Can't tell you exactly what's going to happen. I'm hoping in the next episode, maybe 2, I'll be able to call it as to whether this plan is going to work or not. But anyway, I know how many pips I need, or stables. That's going to be 1 per dupe. At some point, I'll have to figure out how many dupes I need when I am producing meat, and then make sure I have that many stables at the same time. Anyways, if you want to see more of this series, like this video, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video to see if this all pans out.